working moms.
Hey, working dads.
Hey, aspiring working parents.
And allies of working parents.
Are you in search of your pillow?
Does it take you 24 hours just to get out the door in the morning?
Are you the family ATM?
Or the family Uber driver?
Are you on a Zoom call for work while carpooling while also watching a practice?
If so, welcome to our world, the Parents at Work podcast.
I'm Lori.
I'm Jason.
We are married.
And we have two wild and crazy redheaded boys.
We're here to shine a light on the roller coaster ride that is working parenthood. I'm a healthcare lawyer and founder of a working parent community called Mindful Return.
And I'm an executive coach with Ready, Set, Launch, LLC. I wrote a cool book called Relationships to Infinity.
And I wrote a cool book called Back to Work After Baby. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the Parents at Work podcast. We are back today with dads in academia. We just talked to moms in academia, and we had such a fun time that we, of course, decided to bring on the dads. Over to you, Dad Jason.
I mean, my mind's blown in talking to moms in academia, and I'm super excited about this upcoming conversation because I'm going to introduce Lee Pinkowitz, who is not only my former finance professor when I did my MBA, but a longstanding member of the faculty at the McDonough School of Business. He's an associate professor of finance there, where he arrived at Georgetown in 1999, receiving his PhD from The Ohio State University. Go Buckeyes. Professor Pinkowitz is an award-winning researcher in the areas of corporate cash holdings and corporate governance. He's a 6-time recipient of the annual MBA Distinguished Teaching Award and has twice been awarded the Joseph F. Lemoyne Award for Undergrad and Graduate Teaching Excellence. He's been married to his wife, Denise, a.k.a. Dee, for nearly 30 years and has 2 children, his daughter, Jade, 23, and an emergency room social worker in Chicago, and his son, Quentin, 19, finishing his first year at Montgomery College. Lee, welcome to the Parents at Work podcast.
Thanks. It's so great to be here. It's so great to see you guys again. We do know each other, but so I really appreciate you having me on, and I think what you do is great. So thank you for letting me be part of it.
Appreciate you,
Awesome.
Lee.
Thanks, Professor Pinkowitz. Okay, on to Professor Eric Chitambar. Good to see you here. Eric is a professor of electrical and computer engineering at the University of Urbana-Champaign. His research area is quantum information theory, which studies how the fundamental principles of quantum mechanics can be leveraged to build next-generation technologies like quantum computers and quantum networks. He is a husband, and he's the father of 2 girls who are ages 8 and 11. Welcome, Eric. We're so excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome.
You know, and as we put in the show notes, we were talking beforehand about Eric's really cool video on how he explains quantum using T-shirts. I want to put that in the show notes so people can see how Eric talks about very complex ideas using T-shirts and calendars, which I think is pretty cool. Go ahead, Lori. It's very,
on
very
YouTube.
Exciting.
Yes.
It's on YouTube. So
yeah. So we always start these conversations with the question, tell us your working parent story. Eric, I'm going to start with you. What's the working parent story look like for Eric?
Well, the working parent story. I mean, first I got to say it's not just my story. I have a lovely wife, Michelle, who is part of this story. She's a very supportive wife, and she's also a professional here at the university. So she works in the Office of Technology Management.
Awesome.
And so it's basically our story of how we manage our careers and raise 2 beautiful young girls at the same time. And so, you know, it's a little bit of learning on the fly. It's a little bit of seeing what works, what doesn't, prioritizing our family at the same time, respecting our career goals, and just trying to move forward. It's not always in a straight line, but I think we're making progress. We're learning from our mistakes. So that's like the high level story of what goes on. And then there's all the fun adventures of the day-to-day living of how we survive.
Yeah. When you had your kids, at what stage were you in your career path?
Yeah. So we had our first daughter. I was a tenure track assistant professor at Southern Illinois University in Carbondale. And that was pretty much our first daughter was all through the tenure process. So
Mm.
I got my tenure right when relatively close to when our second daughter was born.
Mhm.
And then we moved here to Urbana-Champaign in 2018. And so we've been here since then. So, you know, there's been, I guess, if I look at my career, it's was the pre-tenure, post-tenure. That's kind of how things are structured in
Mhm.
academia. For me, it's not quite a true phase transition. I've been kind of doing the same thing since day one, but we've had one kid and then two kids, and so that complicates it when you go from one to two.
Are there substantive differences in sort of like quality of life issues or the way you can have control or not over your schedule as a parent when you are working toward tenure versus when you have it?
I think that varies
Mhm.
for person to person. I've tried to maintain a high level of excellence at all stages of my career, and so that hasn't changed so much. It's trying to find the balance, right? And if you have students, you have to take care of them. I mean, to keep their goals, their careers moving forward, whether you have
Mhm.
tenure or not. So,
Mhm.
and your kids, of course, you have to provide for them and be good parents to them, whether you have tenure or not. So all
Mhm.
these things are on the table. I don't see too much of a difference as far as when I was an assistant professor to when I was associate to when I was full.
Mhm. Awesome. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that, Eric, and welcome again. Lee, over to you. Tell us your
Yeah.
working parent story.
Uh, a- Actually, it mirrors Eric's by a fair amount.
Mm.
Um, we had Jade, our first, in '02, so I was about halfway through my tenure clock as an assistant professor. Quentin was born the year after I got tenure. Um, w- I will say, I think my view is a little different than Eric's in terms of I felt a lot more pressure as an assistant, as a assistant professor on the tenure track to get tenure, primarily in terms of getting your papers published. And uh, Tenure gives you, first of all, academic freedom, which is nice. You can start working on things that maybe you find interesting, even if you
Mm.
don't think the journals are going to find them that interesting. But
Mhm.
um, I was able to attend a lot. I was able to show up for dinners a lot more as an associate, um, and I guess it was a good time because like I didn't miss my daughter played volleyball in high school, and so like I made a lot of those games. One of the really nice things I think about academia is sort of flexibility. One of my professors at the Ohio State University, we have to say the, or they take the degree away. It's, it's, he said one of the great things about being an academic is you could pick whichever 80 hours a week you want to work. And I always laughed at that as a doctoral student, and I wasn't laughing so much as an assistant professor. But, uh,
I
uh,
feel like
you know,
that same quote came out in the mom academics
really,
conversation that we had last week. One of them
okay,
said it.
yeah.
Yes,
Yes, exactly.
yes,
They
yes,
also got
yes.
that advice. Yes.
It's funny because it's true, uh, right?
Mhm.
But I do think, and as you know, like Eric, this is not my story alone. My wife Denise, was probably did the majority of the sort of child care sort of early on. Um, Although she's on her third career now, but I think the flexibility has been really beneficial in terms of you don't have specific hours you have to be working, right? You don't
Mhm.
there's not a whole lot of travel involved unless you want there to be travel involved. So I think that flexibility as my kids, and now they're older, but as they went through, I guess, Eric, where your kids are in that kind of school age was actually pretty beneficial.
Mm. So you've talked already about the flexibility of academia. Are there other ways that you would characterize what it's like to be a dad in academia in this moment of history?
Um, I I think what's interesting is doesn't matter what you do, to your kids, you're always their idiot father, right? All right, and so Eric, I don't know if this way of you, like, but it, Jason, you were one of my students many years ago when Jade was just a baby.
Sure.
And you know, the type of respect that, maybe grad students or colleagues will provide you as an academic, is one thing, and then you show up at home and you're just that kid's idiot dad, right? And so I sometimes would always say, that like I have to bring my students home so that they can tell Jade who I am, right? Because so it's a first of all, it keeps you humble for one, right? Um, but sometimes it's a very different. It's like code switching, right? When you come home versus,
You're like, I know my place here.
yeah, right. Like I have a certain authority in the classroom or at a conference or something, and I come home and I don't have that, and right, yeah. So that was it took a while to kind of get used to.
I'm sensing some
It's funny. I'm
validation.
laughing because so I do it the flip side. I bring my kids with me so my kids can tell my students who I am. Well, other way around. But in real earnesty, like that's one thing I try to do is involve my kids and my spouse as much as appropriate with group activities, so they can see that where my priorities are. They can see that like I take this very seriously as a father, and so then that kind of helps build like an understanding. First, it does two things. First, they can kind of understand where I'm coming from. When I say I need to leave and pick up my kid from school, my daughters have to go to a doctor's appointment or something like that. And the other thing is that I think it actually sets a good example for them, so they can see, all right, this is important. And when they grow up, maybe that they'll take parenting seriously if they choose to have kids, or at least they can see that it's possible to maintain a career while being engaged family person.
Beautiful.
And as you're talking about being dads in academia, I have a question within the question for both of you. It's funny, I didn't ask this in the last one. How have you explained to your kids, all right, you're a professor, but then like your area of study? So how do you both, like, you're working at, Lee finance, Eric quantum, like this is complex stuff. How do you explain that to your kids?
Eric?
I mean, we'll have different answers, right? Because our kids are at different stages of life. And I will say, just to be honest, I don't really try too hard. I mean, because I think they know I mean, I think they know that I'm a professor and that I have students because I talk about that. But as far as the nature of the work, the science, the area that I do research in, it's not there yet. And that's fine. Like I don't try to bring it on them. If we can just start off with understanding some basic physics and understanding some math, then we'll take it from there, and eventually we'll get to Schrodinger's equation.
All right, so you start with physics and math. That's good. All right.
Yeah.
I always try and bring my family into the classroom, not physically, but in terms of, like, actually, Jason, I'm pretty sure that on your final exam, you actually had to calculate how much money I was supposed to put away for Jade's college fund.
No, you had. I remember in class you had pictures of Jade, both for the college fund and your famous merger arbitrage with the Denny's Grand Slam breakfast.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Right. So,
yes.
I think in terms of, by the way, I really like Eric's point about trying to model to your students the idea that family is important, right, and parenting is important, as well as modeling it to your kids. I tried to bring in what I do when Jade was little. Dee and I gave her a credit card, not a real credit card. It was a mom and dad credit card. I think she was like 7 or 8, and she maxed it out. Oh, actually, we were charging a 24% a year APR, which sounds a lot, but it's actually reasonable. She maxed it out in like the first day buying pencils at Five Below, and it took 8 months to pay off. I would give her statements. and I thought this is great. She'll never make that mistake again. Well, she's 23 and that didn't take. So the other thing was we used to give them allowance and I would tax their allowance. We actually had
Uh,
a taxes jar. Um, and the part where I thought I did a really good job was I think it's probably Jade was 6 and she had lost her folder at school and had to replace it. And I told her that, well, I think you should have to pay for it. And she's ranting at me from the back seat. But that's not fair. Like, why is this not fair? Well, it's not fair. You make, so much more money than you. I have to pay all these taxes. And I just thought, like, there's no other 6-year-old who's doing that. So that was good. But I think on the teaching side, and Eric can maybe speak to this as well. Your kids have school experience, so they kind of they have a sense of what teachers do, even if they don't understand any of the research or the idea that yeah, that's really not what like that is a small part of my job, but there's a whole other part of my job. And so I think I would agree with Eric that like the research side or any of that other stuff we never really discussed because even though people say, oh, it's finance, it's not personal finance, it's somewhat more esoteric. So they always just thought of me as a teacher until Jade went to college.
I think I would add to that and echo one point is that if I can at least communicate to them, there's a distinction between students in a classroom and graduate students. And when I talk of students, I'll use that same word student, but actually I have very different relationships with the students that I lecture and then my research group. And so I think that's kind of a foreign idea to an elementary school kid, right? Because it's very much they go to classroom, they see their teacher, and they're the students. And so just kind of letting them appreciate that in college, and there's different types of students, and that these students are studying really hard on one particular thing versus going to class and learning a variety of different topics at a more introductory level. So, I mean, those are kind of small goals that I try to at least teach that.
Yeah. Well, I'm
That's
sure the majority
amazing
of
dinner conversation. Like, all right, this is a college student, this is a graduate, and so you're even, at a very young age, you're like articulating the what you can do in your relationship to your professor. That's pretty interesting.
I would bet that the vast majority of the American population cannot make that distinction. So well done. Yes. We'll see. Okay, so let's flash back to the time when your kids were born. And maybe we'll start with you, Lee,
Yeah.
because it was earlier, and then we'll
Yeah.
move forward to the closer time. Were there any benefits or help that your employer at the time provided when you became a parent, and or were there things that you wished you had had?
So again, I think flexibility is a real benefit. An explicit benefit, at least at Georgetown, I don't know if it is this way at Illinois or Southern Illinois where you started, Eric. Uh, if you're on tenure track, there is a tenure clock, right? And uh, at least now, I don't think it was. I don't think I had the year as a guy, but there's a stoppage of the tenure clock in terms of like an extension of the year, which is a parenting with the kind of recognizing that um, first year of life or however long is going to cut into uh, your research productivity. It might interfere with your teaching, and um, there's I think that is probably in most of academics the the accommodation that I think a lot of universities make. Um, I'm I'm older, right? I believe when I went through it, it was true for female academics, and male academics, it was always like I did not take that additional year because while it was offered, there was always the perception. I hope now uh, in and maybe later on, that perception it was less stigmatized, right? Where fathers, um, even in academics, are seen as, well, okay, you should be taking some time with your kids, as opposed to, hey, you didn't give birth. Why are you not back in the why are you not back in the lab, or why are you not back in the classroom? So I think that, by the way, I think that's a huge benefit. I think it's a huge advance in the 20 plus years or so. But that I think would have been, that is the big one, I think.
Yeah, amazing. Eric, how
Yeah,
about you?
yeah. I mean, I think kind of recalling. I don't remember quite with there if I had any type of any type of change to my schedule, like teaching schedule or any type of cut of service. At the time with both my kids, I was teaching a course that I had taught previously, and so it was very easy for me to go in, deliver my lecture, and then go home. And at the time, we lived really close to campus, so it was not that hard to maintain my teaching during the semester. Well, first of all, my first daughter was born in February, so I remember finishing teaching the term. My second daughter, River, was born in the summer, and so there I'm already on break. But I do know that the university offered leave, both maternal and paternity leaves, and that's pretty standard in academia that I've seen. And if I can just generalize a little bit, I was thinking about this earlier, that if you think about what is the core mission that an academic institution is doing, it's teaching the next generation, right? And you don't have a next generation if people aren't having kids, right? So kind of like by nature, academia should be supportive of parenting. It would be antithetical if it was a challenging for its own staff to have kids and maintain their career, right? So I think it's kind of, it's a good career in principle for having a family. Now, at the same time, while they have their mission of educating, they also have a mission of research. And so there's kind of this either explicitly stated or implicitly stated that, sure, you can be flexible with your schedule, you can go take care of your kids, but you still need to maintain your research excellence. And so that's really where it gets challenging. But by and large, I think academia is fairly supportive of families. I've experienced that at Southern Illinois University, here at University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, and when I talk with colleagues around the world, actually, I get the same impression.
Awesome. Over to you, Jason, to take us even back further in time.
Yes. So one of my favorite questions is, often we get the question of, what do you want to be when you grow up, or what did you major, as an indicator for, where you're going to go on your career path. I often find that the question of what were you doing in your first job in middle school or high school, that summer job or that odd job, might also lead to something as well. So staying with you, Eric, talk us through, we're back with Eric in high school, and you're, doing things. What was your first job, either formal or informal, that people asked you to, apply yourself to?
My first real job was I changed oil at a 10-minute oil change center. It was
Wow.
scrub it up oil change in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin, on off Burleigh Road. And so it was
Scrub it up.
well, because it was scrub it up because it was an oil change with a car wash attached to it. And my buddies and I, there was multiple of us that worked there, so we changed oil, and then I had some friends that did car washes, and we got in all sorts of fun mischief in that job. But I'll tell you what, I really gained a lot of life experience then, because we're working with adults, we're seeing things, we're hearing things. I did a lot of growing up at Scrub It Up. But it was great, and I learned quite a bit about cars, and I worked almost throughout high school, and then even I came back at my first year of college and took some hours there as well.
Wow. Were you a car person before you were? I love the scrub-a-dub. Were you into cars beforehand?
No, not really. I mean, I think most boys who are getting their young men who are getting their driver's license get into cars at some point. But no, I never really had any sort of affinity toward cars.
Amazing. I love
Yeah,
it.
so this was cool. This is like something where you're doing oil changes, so we'd be down in the pits and dropping oil plugs, putting oil filters in, getting extremely dirty. hot oil, hot days in the summer. It was good stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Lee, same question.
Yeah. So my first job when I was probably junior high or beginning of high school, um, I worked at a bowling alley. I actually, and by the way, I can't believe my
Ooh.
parents allowed me to do this because I was like 14, I think. Well, I used to like to bowl, and the Mid-State Bowl in East Brunswick, which doesn't exist anymore. Um, Over the summer, I worked. I was like a porter. Well, actually, I did a bunch of things, but like I would work from 10 p.m. to like 6 a.m. because I had to clean the place, right? So it wasn't so much as handing out shoes. Sometimes I did that, but we had to take care of all the lanes at night. And the benefit of that is I worked with a couple friends of mine. You finish around 4 a.m. and then you just bowl for like the other 2 hours, which was great. Right? But it's sort of nuts to me to think now that my parents were like at 14, and I would like ride my bike there, because I couldn't drive. It's like, yeah, okay, he's just going to work the night shift like during the summer. Um, I did learn a lot. You see a lot of things at a bowling alley, like at 10 at night, as the bar closes and people are leaving. Not all great, but you know, cleaning the bathrooms of bowling alleys, not something I want to go back to. But you know what? In hindsight, like I'm smiling now thinking about it because yeah, it was an experience.
And
Uh,
so what's going wrong when like the pin thing won't go down, and
Sure. Oh yeah.
what's actually happening? I don't understand. Why won't the thing go down? Is there a latch on or what?
Well, it depends, but no, the pins just get cycled into 10 things, and if it doesn't come down, it's because it's kind of gone in sideways or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, so the pin hasn't fully gone in.
Yeah. Yeah. But we always
Okay.
just let's see. I learned a lot about Eric. I learned a lot about electricity in that job because we were oiling the lanes. It was an automatic oiler, um, and it turns out that uh, and this is nothing. Mid-State's gone, and I'm sure the work laws were very different back then. But the safety laws, if it runs over the cable or the cord, it frays it. And I learned what happens when you touch something that's about 10 amps. It turns out it like throws you back and makes your whole body hurt. So it was still a great job though. Like it was a great job.
Both
That's
of your first
awesome.
jobs involved oiling.
This is true.
Fascinating.
This is true.
Okay.
But
and-
life lessons were learned. I think Lee and I we were doing different things, but it sounds like we grew up.
Yeah, don't touch that. We learned that. Don't
Yeah,
touch that. That's
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
Don't touch that.
Safety. You learned about safety,
did.
and then you became a parent.
Yeah.
Then you become obsessed with safety.
But
Yeah.
I mean, before we move on, if Jason's not going to out himself, I have to out him about bowling.
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. Yes, I will talk about my love of bowling.
Just very
also,
briefly.
Lee. So before I moved to New Jersey, I lived in South Florida. And in South Florida, I was part of a kids bowling league, Don Carter Lanes in Fort Lauderdale. And I used to travel around on weekends in competitive bowling tournaments. I still have my bowling T-shirt and
Yes.
these patches that I would get on my bowling T-shirt, 50, 75, 100, 125. And I had my own bowling ball and my own bowling ball carrier.
Very cool kid, Lee. Very cool.
All right, so
kid.
Lee, I had.
I'm going to out myself here, which is like I bowled in high school. Like no, it was varsity. It was a
Oh, it's
varsity
even
sport.
worse.
I lettered in it. Like
Oh.
this is
Wow.
you didn't have a high school bowling team on Jason. You were in New Jersey.
No.
Hey, we finished third in the state in my senior year. So,
Lee, the things we learn about you, man.
yeah, I can't believe
Amazing.
this. Yeah, that's okay.
So we
I think we need to go bowling together sometime.
we got bowling, we got oil changes. My mind's blown. All right, so back to Eric. So we're talking
Can I
about
ask you a quick bowling question?
Sure.
Have you guys ever heard of duck pin bowling?
Sure.
Do you know this?
Yes.
Yes,
That's in
yes.
Boston.
I've
Yeah.
never been.
Yeah, it's a Milwaukee thing as well.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Actually,
Oh,
there's deep history, deep roots of bowling in Milwaukee,
Eric, were
southeastern
you a
Wisconsin.
bowler growing up as well?
I was not on the varsity team. We didn't have one, but we would bowl quite a bit. That was one of our Saturday nights activities. So yeah, we should all go get a foursome.
there you go.
You can all laugh, but it was the only varsity sport that while playing you could have mozzarella sticks. I'm just saying. It was the
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. No, yeah. Nourishment and
Yeah.
athletics all at the
Yeah.
same time.
Oh my gosh.
So clearly we've learned a lot in our earlier ventures as kids in high school. Now that you become parents, how has that influenced your field of research? So how has parenthood, as you think about your application to your data job, what is it like or unlike? For you, we'll start with you, Eric. What is it like or unlike the world of quantum and correlation and all these things? What's parenthood like in your field of research, as you would compare or contrast it?
Compare and contrast. Well, I can answer this in two different ways. But
However you want.
the first way I'd say is that they're very different, and I have to actually actively work at separating this in one particular way. So the type of research that I do is analytical, and it's proof based. So a lot of our papers and things that we try to do are proof things mathematically, and so this requires very careful definitions, analytical arguments, and you have to be very precise about things. And so that methodology does not translate well to parenting.
Say more.
And also just human relations, like relationships with people. But in my day job and when I'm here and when I'm working, I'm in that mindset of trying to break down a problem, trying to understand it in that way. But when I'm dealing with my kids, my spouse, I can't get into that mold. So I'll give an example here. Recently I was talking to my daughter about doing a basketball camp over the summer. And when I was framing this pitch and trying to convince her to go, it was almost as if I were in my head, as if I were writing a referee reports for some peer reviewed journal that I'm reviewing. And so the way that this works is that you hearken references to previous work to try to connect it to what's done. You provide evidence that's either going to support your verdict one way or the other. You streamline your narrative of whether you're going to accept it or reject the paper. And so I was starting to do this in my head of, okay, here are the benefits of going to this camp. In the past you said you wanted to achieve X. If you do this, it will help you achieve X. Here are the reasons it will help you. All of these things, putting it together. And so that's what was going on instinctively in my head. But the one thing that I was missing out of all this was the simple fact that my daughter just didn't want to do it. And she just didn't feel comfortable doing it. And so like, I guess that my point is that if I just stick to my academic mind of trying to parent, I missed that huge aspect of just like where my kid is, what she's thinking, what she's going through. And so in that way I have to actually separate the two, and I have to do this often. And that's kind of just a simple example, but believe me, it's gotten me in many pickles when I haven't been able to just turn that methodology off, or at least suppress it.
Wow.
So
And before we go to Lee, I have one more question. Do you have, now that you've realized that this exists, that you have this methodology brain and you're very successful in work, but it's not applying at home, is there a shift that you do in your mind when you leave the office to get from, academic methodology mind to dad mind?
Yes, and sometimes you're almost forced into that, right? Like you're doing a million things, and then you get home and one kid wants to watch TV, well, another kid wants to do something else, right? And so you're not even have the ability to try and break it down analytically and think about all the long-term pros and cons, or what is the best argument here to give to my child. You just have to make that split decision of yes or no, you can watch TV, or usually it turns into some sort of negotiation. I would say that's one thing that I've gotten pretty good at, or at least improved on my skills is negotiations. But I'll kick it to Lee and see what he has to say.
I think children are the best negotiators. I have colleagues who teach negotiation, and I really just think the MBA. Jason, you probably had to take a negotiation class in the MBA
Yes.
program. I really think that class should be taught by a 5-year-old because there is nobody who negotiates better. By the way, it's not rational, right? But eventually, it's just like, fine, you know what? Fine, just do it. Like, just stop talking. Like, fine, because they'll just wait you out. Yeah, I don't know if parenting overlapped with research, although I will say, since you're talking about refereeing, right, Eric, we have a joke, at least in kind of the social sciences and the business side. Whenever we get referee reports back, and it's and if any of my referees are listening or watching this, I think you're all brilliant. But this is there's always things like, that's the stupidest thing someone has ever asked me to do. We'll always refer to them as referee 2, right? Or reviewer 2. Right? Reviewer 2 wants you to do this. Well, that's dumb. I think a lot of times you just kind of get home, you realize, like, your kids are reviewer 2. Like, these are stupid things, like, but I'm gonna do it because I have to do that. Like, I don't want to do this, but, like, fine. Like, reviewer 2 needs this done, we're gonna do it. But I do think that it is a very different mindset. Like what I told you guys before. My kids don't know who I am. I'm not proud of this, but like when my kids were younger, the number of times that I would, because I didn't negotiate well, and I would just say, like, I have a PhD, right? Like they would like I know what I'm talking about, which is meaningless to like
irrelevant.
No, it's not. No, to a 7-year-old, it's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. It's stupid. Yeah. So it is, just because you feel maybe competent in one area of one sphere, it does not necessarily translate to competence in another area. And I mean, that's a more general statement, but that's kind of how I felt a lot.
Is there any rationality or irrationality in the world of corporate cash holdings that relates to childhood behavior?
Is I think what is interesting is when I went through grad school, right? Behavioral finance was sort of just beginning, and you know, economists, because Eric, economists always want to be physicists. Like we always want to be, but we're not. We're not, and so everyone to have models where people were economically rational, which is clearly false with any human. But it becomes patently obvious when you have kids to watch decisions that they'll make, or back to Eric's point, like, no, I'm going to lay out this argument is a perfectly good argument, right? And it just doesn't work. So I guess companies do lots of things that were like, what the hell was that? Right? You know, it could come down to, I don't know, maybe the CEO had a bad day that day. Like I don't know. Like we don't, we try very hard to attribute, top rational behavior it's in terms of corporate finance, but that's not how it works.
I'll say one other thing I'll add on to this, and this is something that I think is an advantage of now being in academia, and it's seeing the fruits of some of the concepts that you learn in elementary school. Okay, so many of the things that when I was taking algebra or even calculus, like, why do I have to learn this rule? Why do I need to know this or that? And now I can actually appreciate why I needed to learn it or why it's important. And like, for instance, when you learn multiplication, you learn that it's a commutative operation, right? I can do A times B or B times A, right? And so you're forced to learn this rule and give it a name, and you why am I having to memorize this? But now I work with non-commuting algebras, and so like this is so important. It's crucial. Actually, it's like at the heart of quantum mechanics. And so when I talk to my kids and they're having to learn these things and memorize these rules, I can say, actually, this is super important because it's related to how the structure of the universe works and how we model very, very small systems. And they don't need to understand like exactly what those models are, but it's just giving them kind of like a light at that end of the tunnel, or at least a destination where they're not just telling you this to be mean or to have you memorize more things. There's actually well, I hope, but in many cases, there's actually an endpoint here, and it's important. So just like trust a little bit.
Wow. Like taking y equals mx plus b to like the nth. I
Yeah,
love
exactly.
it.
Yeah.
All right. So before we get to Lori's last question, we were talking before we started on dad jokes and are there PhD dad jokes? So either of you want to weigh in on this important topic before we do our closeout question? Because like there's got to be layers. First of all, did you grow up in a dad joke world? Is that something you're pro or con? Lee, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I did grow up in a dad joke world. I'll tell the one that I told you guys before we started recording, which is, Schrodinger's cat walks into a bar and doesn't, which is just I think it's one of my favorite physics jokes. Uh, you know, Eric, you're an engineer though, right? Are you mathematician? But because
Yeah. Across the
across
board,
the
it says cuts across both. Yeah.
yeah, so this is this is my favorite engineering joke. Uh, Four engineers are in the car. They're driving. It's an electrical engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer, computer scientist. Car stops. Now they're arguing. The mechanical engineer says, and Eric, you'll be working at the scrub at this. You'll get this. Scrub it up. Uh, the mechanical engineer says, "Well, it's clearly there's something wrong with the engine. I'm going to get out. I'll fix the engine. We'll be good." The electrical engineer says, "I don't know what you're talking about. Clearly, we've blown a fuse. The panel. I'll rewire the panel. Will be good." Civil engineer says, "Look, this is clear that the road was made badly, and that's what's happening here." And the computer scientist says, maybe if we all just get out and get back in, it'll be okay."
Very
That's
good.
it.
Ba-dum-bum.
Ba-dum-bum.
Uh-huh.
All right, I got one. I got a good one.
Okay.
Okay.
How many mystery writers does it take to change a light bulb?
How many mystery
Mystery
writers does
writers.
it take to change the light bulb? I don't know.
The answer is 2. One to get it started and one to give it a good twist at the end.
Oh.
I love that one.
This did not
That's great.
disappoint.
Great one, isn't it good?
Did not
I'm
disappoint.
taking that. I'm taking that one. Yeah.
I heard it. It's not an original. I love
No,
that
that
one,
one's
though.
good. No,
It's a
yeah.
good one.
This, of all the episodes, and I know we're in the 60s now, we have not had any dad jokes on the Parents at Work podcast. So I am
Wow.
really grateful to you both for bringing it
All right.
today.
And this is a new tradition. I'm calling it. We got to add the question now. Bring the dad jokes.
Bring the dad jokes.
Bring the
Can
dad
moms
jokes.
bring the dad jokes? I think moms can bring the dad jokes.
Well, there's got to be
too.
some kind of mom jokes. All right. So on the mom side,
No,
all right,
nothing's
anyway,
funny
bring
in
us home.
motherhood.
But yeah, I think there's an opportunity. Let's bring some jokes.
The dads always get to be the fun guy in the relationship. I'm going to let the moms bring the dad jokes. So, okay, last question for you both. Thank you so much for being here with us today. Eric, let's start with you. With 2020 hindsight, what piece of advice would you give yourself back in that moment when you were becoming a parent?
Okay, I'm going to give 2 pieces of advice here. The first one is, and this was some advice that was given to me by a life coach, professional coach here on campus that I met with a few times, and he's a fountain of wisdom. And the piece of advice is, it's okay to say no, and you should say no to many things. And when you say no, reframe it as saying yes to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So really what we're getting at here is not stretching yourself too thin. And I would say to myself, Eric, say no to more things, because once you get into it, you're going to have that responsibility added to your plates. And that's going to take away time from your spouse, from your kids, from your students. So it's okay to say no. And if you're having trouble with that, think of it as saying yes to something else that's of greater priority in your life.
I love that.
Yeah, that's one piece, number one. The other piece, and this one's a bit more lighthearted, but don't take your kid out of the high chair too early. And this will vary from kid to kid, I'm sure. But there's something about, I think, a kid when they're in that high chair, they kind of know I need to sit here because I'm kind of buckled in and I need to eat my food and I don't leave the table before I eat my food. But there, at some point, if you left them out of the high chair too soon, they may not be ready for that and don't have the discipline to stay seated until they finish their food. So you can take that on a variety of different levels, but it's okay to let the kid stay in the high chair a little bit longer.
Beautiful.
That's
Good
brilliant.
life advice. And I'm also delighted to hear that they have life coaches on college campuses. That's amazing. Over to
Yes.
you, Lee.
Yeah, I think for me, and this is with the benefit of hindsight of 20 plus years. One is that your kids are separate people, but like they literally are people. And the world doesn't necessarily work the way you think it does, right? In other words, you know, for instance, I as an academic, right? Like my life I was always really good at school. You get really good grades. This is like there was a mindset of how things work, and the path that I and pretty much everybody I grew up with took may not be the path, for everyone, and you should allow your kids to choose their own path rather than trying to foist one upon them, even if it's even with the best of intentions, right? So I think that it's recognizing that you don't not only do you not know everything, but you don't even know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Wise.
Yes. Amazing wisdom. Thank you, professors. This was a delightful conversation. Thank you so much
Yes.
for spending time with us on the Parents at Work podcast. We'll be back with more guests soon. And it was a real delight. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much. Yeah.
Thank you both.